Welcome to another edition of Common Sense Ohio. As you can see, one of the three is gone. Norm's here, Brett's here, Steve is out doing his job. So today's episode brought to you by, as always, Harper and Company CPA, HarperCPAplus.com, and get that website out. If you haven't got your taxes done, here's a dirty little secret. April 15th is coming up. You might want to get working on it this weekend. But if you own a business, you probably already have yours down and dirty done. But if you didn't like how they went this year or how your CPA firm worked with you, now's a good time to get a hold of Harper, CPAplus.com. Glenn and the team over there, they're fantastic in helping entrepreneurs, small businesses, large businesses get a hold of what you're doing with your business and understanding the complexities of payroll, of your expenses versus income. I mean, I know that sounds basic, but there's some CPAs as an entrepreneur or small business that you're not getting that feedback in regards to how to run your business better. And Glenn and everybody over there, they're top notch. I use them for my business. I feel so comfortable in running my business because I'm working with them. They're great. It's HarperCPAplus.com. Today in history, some really cool stuff.
Crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Today in 1971 was Ed Sullivan's last show. And that was an epic show. I mean, the Beatles, Elvis Presley, everybody who was anybody in the 60s and early, up to 71, of course, kind of debuted their act on the Ed Sullivan Show.
That type of show doesn't exist anymore if you think about it.
The variety show.
You have to be on that show, because it turned into the Tonight Show, basically.
Yeah.
That if you wanted to do it, you've got to be on with Carson.
Yeah.
And Tonight Show.
Yeah.
That doesn't really exist anymore.
No, it doesn't. And people loved those shows back in the day. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of fun. Some of those shows were broadcast live. I mean, they were not tape delayed. So crazy stuff happened.
Especially when you get kids and pets. Those are the two danger zones. And then introducing rock and roll, of course, was a danger zone. But
I highly recommend for those that want to do a little research on DuckDuckGo or Google or whatever, look up Ed Ames on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson when they were throwing tomahawks. And you will, seriously, you're going to need a box of Kleenex and you're going to need something to recover. So you need a pillow. Or the funniest skit that ever went wrong on live TV. It's just, I won't say what happened. It's too funny.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, what else you got?
Michael Jordan on this day in 1990 scored 69 points in one game. It was the fourth time that he scored over 60 points by himself in one game. I mean, I don't know how you do that.
Was he with Cleveland at that point in time?
I think he was with Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Okay.
The Bulls.
Okay, the Bulls.
The Bulls.
Or my mind went to something else. I'm sorry. When you said that, my mind went to LeBron. I don't know why I thought that. I'm sorry. Yeah. No. That's cool. Wow.
And then 1990, George Bush gave Jesse Owens, the famous Olympian from Ohio, went to Ohio State, I should say. He's born in Michigan, but we won't hold that against Jesse. Was my honor to meet him as a kid and shake his hand. He got the Congressional Gold Medal posthumously from President Bush. So today we got all kinds of stuff to talk about. Mm-hmm. We're going to get into Doge. There was this epic interview on Fox with Brett Baer that just blew the lid off of what they're doing and who these people are. We're talking about George Bush. I'm sure a lot of people wish George Bush was still president, but we're going to talk about Donald Trump's tariff of 25% on foreign imported cars. Talk a little bit about Dave Yost on the Glenn Beck Show, talking about this ClearView facial recognition software, Senate Bill 1. Governor DeWine's going to sign to ban DEI at colleges and universities. Some school choice stuff, some teacher, coach, police officer stuff. What do you do when somebody's been accused of something, but they're not convicted yet? How do you red flag them from going to another district or another department when it's unknown? The hiring entity has no idea these people are a potential bad apple. We've had that in Ohio. The Intel deal in in Ohio is crashing hard. They kicked the opening day estimate to 2030. Get into that. And then this battle shaping up before the Supreme Court between the federal district courts, that's the lowest federal court system, 600 of those judges versus the ones that are politicized are basically the only entities that seem to be able to slow down Donald Trump. And so there's a pitched battle coming there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
little preview.
Yeah, a little bit.
What
Yeah,
do you
exactly.
do you have some stuff
Well,
to add in?
I wanted to add one more thing. We discussed this off air about today was the and I'll bring this to today's discussion. A nuclear disaster at 3 Mile Island happened today back in 1979.
Wow.
Which you brought up a piece I did not realize, which I love this because we've had discussions about energy and where this energy is going to have to come from.
Big thing.
Because of of Amazon's hubs and
Google, all these companies.
everybody.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that I missed this, that Amazon actually bought 3 Mile Island.
Yeah, Bezos
for its energy because one of the two reactors is still in play.
It's still in play. It was mothballed, I think, a couple years ago, maybe a little bit longer. But in recent history, it had operated right up, like I say, a couple, 3-4 years ago, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then it was considered impractical because of the rates of electricity to continue to maintain and continue operating that the one that was not damaged. There were two reactors, and one is permanently sealed, never to be reopened. The other one, as I said, continued to operate, and Bezos bought it.
I love it.
Which is just
I think
incredible.
It's incredibly smart. Plus, you're hearing rumblings of the energy use and that those that are sucking up so much energy, they may have to do something like this. It'll be interesting how the AEPs and the Duke Energies of the world look at this.
Absolutely.
Because if they're generating their own energy, they're not paying AEP or Duke or whoever it might be any money. So it'll be interesting about the pushback.
We're going on over 40 years since the NRC, Regulatory Commission, has licensed a new plant. So I think what Bezos is doing is kind of ingenious. He found a plant that was mothballed, and rather than getting a permit to build it, right? He's got to go through all the safety hoops and loops. But he's going to he doesn't have to build this one.
I love it.
And
I think it's a great experiment. I really do. And again, it's the energy answer.
Yeah.
That we're all concerned about where all this is coming from and how it's going to affect our rates and stuff. Well, if you got your own little plant.
Yeah. Well, we talk about the deal with windmills, and there seems to be concern that out at sea, when they're at sea, that it confuses whale herds. And then on land, it seems to be chopping up bald eagles and, other birds that, fly into the blades. And in Texas, famously, we talked about this on the show when it happened. The windmills froze. They happened to get some really bitter cold weather. And Texas, which has all this oil and natural gas, right? There were whole parts of Texas that didn't have any electricity for days on end because the mills, the blades froze on the hub and they wouldn't turn, so no electricity. So with the, I guess, instability or unreliability of some of the sources of energy, not to mention coal, which causes. You got to scrub it to get the pollutants out, the sulfur, and, prevent acid rain. So there's all these downsides, but nuclear is pretty darn clean. Yeah. If you don't have a Chernobyl, if you don't have a 3 Mile Island, if you don't have a Fukushima, right, that got hit by that tsunami wave, if you don't have those kinds of accidents, otherwise nuclear power is there's no emissions.
Right. I would think Pennsylvania is fairly safe for weather. I mean, the only thing maybe would be earthquake, fault lines.
And they have plans for that.
I would think they would.
And, of course, terrorism.
Yeah.
And, I think one of the standards for a nuclear power plant, is the cement casing has to, believe this or not, folks, that casing has to be airliner proof. They actually have a standard that if an airliner, like what hit the Pentagon, were to hit a nuclear power plant, that it would not pierce, it would not completely destroy that dome.
Wow.
So it's feet thick.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, they have thought about a lot of contingencies, but maybe not so much about terrorism. I am concerned about that,
Well, it can happen. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's dive into your news stories. Yeah, exactly.
So Doge had this incredible interview, and it was not political at all. I would urge you to find it on YouTube or Fox News or whatever platform. It was an hour show. The first half hour was with the Doge. I hate to call them employees. I guess you would say executives. So one was the co-founder of Airbnb. One was an oil company executive who's on loan to Elon Musk. And then Elon Musk was there too. So I was expecting to see, big balls and, I was expecting to see a bunch of teenage kids that didn't graduate from high school or college. No. These were quite impressive executives that have taken leave from their regular jobs and are working as more or less unpaid volunteers or minimally paid volunteers for Doge. And the things that they presented and the logic that they used was, it was overwhelming. And it really was a pushback on this theme that's starting to percolate, that Doge is full of mean people, that want to just, gut the government and, end all these services. And one of the things that they brought up very quickly is most of the people who are being retired or let go or whatever mechanism are voluntary. The number of people in the federal bureaucracy who have been outright fired is less than 1%. It's actually 0.15%, which is an eighth of 1%. So they are not, when they are eliminating jobs, they're doing it in a way that has a parachute attached to it if it's voluntary, and an extensive amount of pay to transition to a private sector job or just retire. So it's not as meany as it's been portrayed. People are not just getting pink notices, you're fired, except for less than 1% are in that category. Yeah. So that's one statistic.
Yeah, we kind of needed this explanation. I mean,
yes.
we Americans want to know what is going on.
Exactly right.
And
exactly
this was not a strategic plan that had to be kept undercover. It's sad. And again, they moved very quickly, and everybody is saying that maybe it moved too quickly, shouldn't have been a chainsaw, maybe a bit more scalpel. But if we understand the reasoning behind it, it kind of goes down a little bit easier. At least you understand the process.
Well, so Elon's appointment is only for 135 days.
Right.
So
right.
He may get renewed, but as a special advisor employee who's not taking a paycheck, he's only there. And he sort of sounded in the interview like after he hits $1 trillion, their goal, his goal in savings to the federal budget, that he probably will not stick around after that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So he's under a little bit of a time pressure,
right.
Brett.
Yeah.
I think that's why they're moving so fast.
And it's a good reminder. I'd forgotten what the day limit was. I couldn't remember how long, but
he doesn't have much time, and plus he's got all these other companies.
Oh yeah, for
SpaceX,
sure.
Tesla. He's busy guy.
Right. Well, he owns a business, and he can't. This is not his full-time gig.
So they rolled out some stats that just mind-blowing stuff, and then they gave some examples. So let me give an example that at least a guy like me, a pretty simple guy, I can wrap my head around this. They gave an example that the National Park Service, has a survey for people who use the national parks. Were you pleased with your visit? Were the rangers polite? A survey, right? That kind of stuff. Did you see a bear? Did you see a moose? Whatever. Okay, so they have a survey. They are paying a company $1 billion to maintain this survey. And I don't know how they use it or if they even use it. But, Musk pointed out that instead of $1 billion, for $10,000 on SurveyMonkey, the National Park Service could do the exact same survey, right? And there just seems to be like this overall lack of creativity or out-of-the-box thinking within the federal government. It's like everything has to be done the old way. And another example of the old way, in the 1950s, if you're a federal employee, your retirement documents, your entire history and your benefits are stored on paper in a mountain, in a cave in Pennsylvania. 400 million pieces of paper on pallets that when, let's say you do 20 years, okay, at the National Institute of something, right? And you're going to retire. You have to do a weeks-long course on how to retire, number one. The federal government has a maximum workload. They can only retire 8,000 people per month because they literally have to go to the mountain cave, go to the file cabinet, go to the rack that the files are kept in, and physically find, Mrs. Mary Smith. I got to find Mary Smith, in Sevierville, Tennessee, who works for the TVA, right? And I got to find her papers. And then, so they're going to digitize all this stuff, and it's going to take them weeks and months to do that. But at the end of the day, think of how much more efficient that will be, both for the benefit of the federal worker who wants to have their employment records at the tips of their finger. Yeah. They will be able to go in, check their own their own retirement plan, see what their pension is, see what their Social Security benefits are, and you'll be able to enter the modern age. Who would have thought that we have a paper system for federal employee retirement?
Well, and I guess I could see the benefit of it. It's the safest thing you can have. It's not in the internet. I can see that. But it's old school. But like you said before, it's old school. It existed before the digital age.
Right. It's left over from the 1950s.
I would think if there's no personal information that's going to be digitized, which again, we all get scared about this.
Well, there is going to be. I mean, it's your retirement.
But
record.
You know what?
Yeah.
All of our stuff is out there already. It is. Well, our information is out there already. Well, so digitizing this won't change anything. It just adds more information to it. Your stuff's on the dark web. My stuff's on the dark web. We get notices all the time. If you sign up for a dark web, or, like a Google alert or something like that your stuff's out there already. So we really shouldn't be too scared about digitizing and putting it on a secure server.
Well, no more so than our defense secrets or any other thing the federal government does.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, exactly. No,
we're just talking about computerizing. Yeah. So if you work for, General Motors, you can bet your bottom dollar General Motors has your retirement plan on a computer. Yeah. But the federal government does not for its own employees, which is madness.
I'm sure it just comes down to there's no game plan to digitize it. So it took. If they did, it would have to take a committee. They'd have to do a year's worth of research, 2 years worth of how to do it.
They would talk it to death.
Subcommittee.
They're just going to do it.
I'm sure, you know what, and I bet it's been discussed, but it's been poo-pooed because of this, that, or the other. So, and that's good. I mean, yes, if you're retiring, you want that information more quickly, and it allows more than $8,000 a month to retire if that's the case.
Well, speaking of retirement, some other crazy statistics they disclosed. Every day, the Social Security Administration gets calls to change the bank deposit, the location of where your Social Security check will be deposited. They get calls every day for that, thousands. And Elon disclosed that 40% of those calls are fraud. 40% of the calls that the SSA gets are requests on the phone to discontinue payment to this Chase bank account or Huntington or whatever, Park National, and to this other account, to the fraudster's account, right? So two things are coming out of this. It got portrayed as a negative. So what Trump and Doge are saying is when retirees want to do that, from now on, they're going to have to physically do that. They're going to have to present themselves with ID to make sure that a fraudster isn't redirecting their deposits.
How does that work when they're closing up Social Security offices, though?
Well, they're not going to close up all of them.
Okay.
But
it doesn't make it very convenient to do it,
No, they're not talking about closing up all of them. They're talking about reducing some of the.
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy anyway. I mean, it's kind of nuts that you would be able right now legally to call Social Security and on the phone be able to talk an individual into changing the deposit location of your check.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And when you think that 4 out of 10 calls is fraudulent, you're protecting people.
Right. Oh, for sure.
I mean, this is not an attack on Social Security, but it's being portrayed that way by people who just, are enemies of the Trump administration. I mean, they're picking at things that are senseless.
Yeah.
One of the other things that they portrayed is $400 trillion over the last couple of decades have been paid out from one bank account that serves 500 departments of the federal government. So there's a single bank account for 500 agencies and departments, and 400 trillion of those payments have no identification code that a guy like Glenn Harper and an auditor or an accountant can go trace $100 million to XYZ Corporation from this bank account. And you cannot, without tremendous amounts of research, figure out what department cut that check and why. So, I mean, they're going to try to modernize the payment system.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
rectify, make it so it's kind of legal. Maybe?
So you can.
It's not even modernizing. It's like it's illegal for auditing purposes. Oh my gosh.
And
wow.
Some other examples of just outrageous stuff. There's something called the Labor Conciliation Commission, and I read an essay about this. There are people there who have not come into work for years. They have not reported for work for years, and they're being paid. And some of these people have had like their portraits painted, like on the taxpayer's dime. They've leased multiple cars for multiple households that they own, okay, on the federal taxpayer. So a couple people had landscapers being paid out of this account for this agency. And so it's just been what Musk is saying is it would horrify people from both parties, would be horrified at the waste, because when you think that there's hungry children or there's veterans sleeping under bridges or like we don't have enough artillery shells to defend for our own army because we've been shipping them to Ukraine. It's like we have needs in this country for our people, right? For homeless people. L.A. has a terrible fire department. Maybe they need a grant. They couldn't put out that fire or even stage trucks. Like there's a lot of stuff. Lead in the pipes up in Flint, Michigan.
Flint. Yeah, excuse me.
You know what? All I'm saying is, who can be against stuff like, instead of the national park spending $1 billion on a survey, spend $10,000, do the same survey but outsource it. That leaves you $999 million to do something else. Maybe build a new guest lodge at Yosemite. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, all I'm saying is this attack on Doge that currently is kind of getting popular with people. I think you're right, Brett. I think a lot of it is bad communication, bad transparency. Yes, they're putting the receipts up on a website in more or less real time, But they need to do more communication like this.
Yeah, explain what you're putting up there.
Explain what you're doing.
And again, if
That's
mistakes happen, I shouldn't say even when mistakes happen, because it's going to happen. It was there's something anyway. I forget the example in my mind, but I remember it's like it was just misread. Okay, that really wasn't this; it was this.
That's right.
It's going to happen because again, it's that
Yes.
the Elon chainsaw kind of feel to it. But I think if we explain what's going on, give us an opportunity to digest the actions and justify it, going, okay, that makes sense. Yes.
It's not
whether we spend $10,000 or let's say it's even $100,000 on the surveys. That's still a huge savings.
Rather than $1 billion.
Exactly. Yeah. Come on. $1 billion? Give me a break. Exactly. So anyway, that's good.
I think also, Brett, part of this is like the personality of a CEO. They're not used to answering to people.
No.
So you take the richest man in the world, right? Yeah. Who runs, these mega corporations that he owns, right? He's used to just issuing orders and not reporting to anybody.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Other than his stockholders, I guess.
Right.
Ultimately.
But I own the company, and so if we're going to change the windshield on that, I tell you right now, change the windshield.
Yeah. Right.
And then they do it. But you bring him into government service, he needs to understand PR.
Yeah.
And I think this has been a good lesson for him.
And Trump could have advised him on that too. Trump gets it. He knows it.
I think so. Right.
He's been through 4 years before.
Right.
If nothing else, just the 4 years and no.
And he has a White House spokesperson.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Doge needs to appoint one.
Maybe. That's true.
And hold daily press conferences and answer these questions.
There you go.
So this to me, I think, is something everybody should watch. Again, Bret Baier did not hold back. He asked really tough questions. He asked about the mistakes, and they admitted to making mistakes. Okay. So,
that's all we ask. That's all I ask.
That's right.
Honestly,
Transparency
is if you made a mistake, correct it.
And
own it.
So,
own it. Exactly. Yeah.
Another thing that came up that's kind of hot on the national scene, and then we'll get to Ohio stuff, unless, Brett's got some things. But a rather dramatic tariff was put into place this week, or at least announced. I'm not sure what day it becomes effective, but a tariff on foreign manufactured cars of 25%. Now, to explain, Ford, for example, and GM's the same way, and, Stellantis, which is an Italian company, actually, but based in the Netherlands, oddly enough. But Stellantis is what used to be Chrysler, okay? Yeah. The big three, were the formerly big three, because they're not the biggest anymore. Toyota and Volkswagen and Honda have greatly exceeded the old big three. The big three, the ex-big three, have many, many plants overseas, like in places like Canada, Mexico, Germany, et cetera, Spain. And they import cars from these foreign countries. So Ford or GM owns a plant, let's say, in Canada. And then they bring cars across the border into the United States to sell. Those under this tariff are considered foreign-made cars, right? Even though they're owned by an American company. Oddly enough, many of the foreign car makers, like Nissan, Honda, Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, have major plants in the United States. So those cars will not fall under this tariff. So your Honda, what is it, the Accord that they make in Marysville, right? That will be treated as a domestically made car. It will not be 25% more expensive or have a tariff on it because it's made in the United States. But a Ford made in Germany, right? Or a Porsche made in Germany.
Or go to Jeep here, made in Ohio. Even though the Wrangler is going to get hit because a portion of it's not made here.
Well,
they're bringing in parts too.
I think that this is going to be on the car.
On the wholesale of it?
Not the components.
Parts. Gotcha. Okay. So we talked about components before. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This will be a separate thing.
But even stuff that we think is, Jeep shouldn't be touched. Like Yeah.
But this will
gonna be.
benefit Jeep.
Yeah, it should. It
So
should,
the UAW has come out in favor of this tariff.
Yeah. So it's rather than parts, it's going to be all just on wholesale. Okay.
That on the vehicle.
Vehicle
on
itself. I
bringing-
should say the wholesale vehicle.
Yeah.
The vehicle itself. Yeah.
Bringing
Okay.
in the entire vehicle,
Okay.
that would get taxed if it's assembled in a foreign country, 25%. So
I like that better because we had talked about that analysis of back and forth across the Canadian border, adding up the 25, 25, 25.
You may
So,
remember that Ford was going to build this plant in Mexico during Trump's first administration, and he called the Ford people and said, I'm going to put a tariff on that thing. I think at that time he was threatening a 100% tariff.
Oh, wow.
So that if you built, let's say, the Ford Bronco in Mexico, instead of it being, say, a $40,000 four-wheel drive vehicle, it'd be $80,000 because it'd be double the cost.
Yeah.
And Ford decided not to build in Mexico. And Honda was going to build a plant in Mexico just a few months ago. Now they're building that new plant in Indiana.
Yes.
So this is actually like the UAW is kind of going, yeah, we didn't support you for president. But rock on.
Well, and I'll go back and say it again. If it's based on the whole car versus the parts, that it's a little bit easier to digest and understand. What's got to be done.
Yeah. So those expensive,
whether you like it or not.
Those expensive competitors to the Jeep, if they're like Kia or whoever makes like a sporty four-wheel drive, if they're made in Korea, they're going to have 25% extra added on. That's going to help sell Jeeps.
Yeah.
Because and I think what's going to happen eventually, of course, because Hyundai builds cars in America, I think Kia will. They're all going to see the benefit of building here, and that's frankly why Volkswagen and BMW have and Mercedes have plants in the United States. Yeah. They will never have to deal with this tariff on those vehicles.
Right. They're made here.
Now, Porsche is in a little bit of a trouble, but
you know what?
I don't know. Those buyers, another 25%.
That's a vanity buy anyway.
Yes, that's right.
And they've got money that they're burning. There's just certain models. Like,
that's right.
You know what?
That's right.
You're buying boats.
Right.
You've got money to do it.
Exactly.
Go for it.
Right.
And that's okay.
It's okay.
There's no judgment here, but it's like, it's going to be a little more expensive, but it's, not that big of a deal.
This was done under previous administrations, for example, for the benefit of Harley Davidson. There was a time when the Japanese motorcycle industry was killing Harley. And frankly, Harley's not doing that great right now. But at any rate, I think it was President Reagan who may have, I think at the behest of Malcolm Forbes, actually, was talked into putting a tariff on Japanese motorcycles in order to give Harley some breathing room to survive. Otherwise, they were going to go out of business, more than likely.
Right, exactly. Good. Okay.
So anyway.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. 'Cause I didn't dig deep enough, and I was still referencing what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. So
Brett, the details are going to come out.
Yeah.
And if there are some sub-assembly details, like if the powertrain is built in Canada, then brought into America, will they somehow apportion that? I don't know.
Right.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's on the assembled vehicle.
Good. Okay. I think that's so much easier to understand.
Well, it would be really
and for the automakers to kind of go, okay, this is it, black and white.
and for the customs service.
Right.
Can you imagine them trying to figure out what portion of a car
exactly
is a drive shaft or a brake drum made in it? Yeah.
Looking at a piece of paper against every vehicle, going, okay, this is what? Yeah. Oh my God.
You would have to do calculus. Attorney General of Ohio Dave Yost was on the Glenn Beck show. I did not hear it, but I read the transcript is available online if you want to read the word by word. And there is a facial recognition software that the Attorney General's office has used to investigate cases. So it's not usable in court as evidence, but it can be used to investigate people and to track down people. And they have used it successfully in some murder, rape, and other cases. It's called ClearView, is my understanding. And what they've done is they've hoovered up images of us, the American public, on social media. This company, ClearView. They've hoovered up our images, and then they hold that out for law enforcement. If they've got a fuzzy picture, like of that Luigi guy that shot the healthcare executive in New York, and they've got this fuzzy picture of him, they can take that fuzzy picture and let AI go to town on images off of social media and get, some pretty definite clues of who to go talk to.
Yeah. So,
and Glenn Beck is freaked out by it.
Yeah,
he said it's a big brother, and
hugely.
Like right now, Dave, we trust you. You're a good guy. You're Attorney General of Ohio. When we've gotten to know you, and you're not a creep. You're not a Nazi. You're not a communist. You're a normal guy. But what happens when a bad guy or girl gets in office
and could have an R or a D after their name? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Just somebody who is not careful with our civil rights.
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying, and Steve would probably address this better than I can, or to answer this question is, okay, are there so many criminals getting away because we don't have facial rec?
Apparently, this is so.
You know what I mean? Because it seems to be weird. I know it's going to make the job easier, but are that many criminals getting away with stuff because of it?
He walked Glenn through a specific case that was horrifying about child molestation. Okay. And they had this image that was unclear, but it was enough to possibly identify somebody, but only a computer could figure out the length of the nose, the eyebrow location, maybe the color of the eyes, things like that, the type of beard pattern or whatever. And it narrowed it down to one particular person.
Okay.
Now, that isn't being used to convict him.
All right.
But it is being used for them to go and get a court order to enter his house, and it's enough to trigger a search warrant.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. But a judge is making that determination. So the police don't issue their own search warrants. Right. They got to go to a judge, and a judge, at least a human being, is involved at some point, where a judge says, "Okay, you've convinced me," but. Yes, I'm concerned about that. The other thing that Dave Yost mentioned, and this is true, and Steve and any attorney would know this, is it is perfectly legal for a police officer, say, to stand in a public square and observe people. Like, he can have a little book of the most wanted people with their pictures.
Sure.
And he can stand on the corner, at Broad and High, and just look at pedestrians and look at people driving cars by and look to see if he can find somebody that matches that picture. And Yost is saying, essentially, if you put your puss online, your photo, that's a public place. Anybody can go to Facebook, right, and look at your picture if you've got it up there and it's public. If it's not behind some kind of firewall. So you've put it out there in the public, just like walking down the sidewalk in public. And why can't the police then look at your picture? That's the analogy that he's drawing.
Yeah, because we've already entered the database of Facebook or Instagram or whatever. We've allowed that. We did it.
You did it. Now, what if somebody, like, it's your high school class photo and you didn't put it on the internet?
Yeah,
that might be a different thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, wow, that's
right.
Yeah, it all comes down to what's it going to be used for and how far does it go, and we've got to move very slowly with this.
And I think courts, we're going to evolve on this. What is usable and for what purpose? So he's saying right now he's not advocating it be used as proof to convict, but for investigation.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
I think. But I'm not missing the downside of it, but but I guess it's that domino effect. Okay, when's the next step happen?
Right.
When's that judge allow it to be, or legislate a state to say, you know what? Yeah, we're doing it. We're going to go because it could be an immigrant status. It could be anything,
Well,
then all of a sudden it's Pandora's box is open.
Well, let me give an example, of misuse that's potential. So suppose you're a really bad apple and you want to find out who all the people are that show up at a Black Lives Matter rally. And it's a peaceful rally. You've got ACO and Bernie Sanders, and they're talking to people who believe in that philosophy. And it's a perfectly legal event. There's no violence. People are saying what they want to say, and there's people in attendance. I'm uncomfortable whether it's people going to a Trump rally or whether it's that. I'm very uncomfortable if, let's say, the FBI wants to create a database of everybody who goes to a Black Lives Matter rally or to a school choice, people protesting school choice or people protesting abortion or any subject. If it's peaceful and they're just there, no, I don't want this facial recognition creating a database of who believes in what causes or who attended what events. I'm very uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Glenn was talking about.
Yeah, because that information is probably online anyway, because going back to our Facebook example, so you're going to a rally, you're probably taking pictures while you're there, maybe and such. Maybe you're posting it on Facebook.
I don't know. A lot of people are very, a lot of people
of themselves being at a
lot of
protest
people.
or something.
Let's suppose
maybe.
that. Let's
so
suppose,
maybe already be there.
Let's suppose you want to go to your school board meeting, and it's about they're going to fire somebody because of DEI, or they're going to change the curriculum, or they're going to have a book that's controversial. And let's say you're a mom and you want to go to the school board meeting, and they have a camera to try to document everybody in the audience. And you just want to be private. You have the right to go to a public meeting. You're a parent, and you just want to sit there, and you're not going to speak. You're not going to do any violence. You're just there.
You're in the gallery.
And they use facial recognition to try to figure out who the troublemakers are. And you're just a citizen. That's wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think people should be allowed to go places and be anonymous.
It definitely has a chilling effect that you're not going to show up because cameras are. Even if they say, well, we have a camera present and you need to sign off.
Right.
It still doesn't matter. It's capturing you possibly as the focus is on the speaker, and you're in the background because you're watching the speaker speak. And whatever.
And maybe it's not even law enforcement doing it. What if it's some opposing organization that wants to figure out who to harass, like who to send stuff in the mail to, who, publish a list of names of people, these people showed up to protest this and put it in the paper. Now, where this leads is, I think it could be abused very easily. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah.
We got Senate Bill 1 that has passed, and Mike DeWine, our governor here in Ohio, has promised to sign it. And this is the bill that will very vigorously stamp out DEI courses, departments, professors, and any kind of instructional matter about DEI on Ohio college and university campuses. They are doing the same thing with grade school and high school, of course. And it's going to get signed. The one thing that super troubles me, is that I think universities and colleges need to be an open place of diversity. I've always believed that. I think you have, college Democrat organizations, college Republicans, college communists, college socialists. And I think if there is a student group, for example, and they want to have professors be advisors for the group, pushing for DEI, I think that is perfectly and totally acceptable. I have no problem with that, even though I totally oppose it. But I am in favor of those individuals having an organization and being able to ask professors for help. This is the whole point of college to me, is to learn about the other person and to learn about why are they scared, or why are they concerned, or why are they angry, or why are they happy?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
to me, I don't want ROTC kicked off of campuses where people want to go to the military. I think campus should reflect the entire expanse of our society, Brett.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned that, and I hope it's not going to go too far, but I am a little concerned that this no DEI thing goes too far, because I don't want to stamp on the rights of people that believe that this should be taught. Maybe it should be taught in their opinion, and they have the right to express that opinion. And maybe there's a way to have a student club for that still gets some of the student activity fee money directed if it's a properly organized club and it's, meets all the other criteria.
Yeah.
But at any rate,
Well, I think
that's where we are.
I think there's some nuances that it's sweeping legislation that maybe some things have not been thought out, and it'll come out in the wash and it'll be modified. But
it'll be challenged in court.
Exactly.
No question.
To an example, and I've made mention this. My wife's a professor at Wright State University, and it was she didn't realize this, but there was some scholarships that were given through the DEI initiatives to Appalachian students, so they could go to Wright State.
Okay,
they're white.
Okay.
Through the DEI stuff.
Okay.
So I think we got to watch
rural areas
that they never got it because of DEI.
Okay.
And again, there are pieces of DEI that I like, don't like. Everything is that way for me.
Right.
There's always pros and cons to everything.
Right.
But it's that we got to watch because it gave that Appalachian white student an opportunity to go to university, but where they probably would have never been able to. And I think that's great.
Of course,
so
that's
it's
great. That's great.
It's that everything gets kind of, like you said, hoovered up in one fell swoop, and then it's got to kind of wash in the courts.
So what I am adamantly against with DEI is when it's forced.
Yeah.
Like when it's made a requirement, like you can't get out of medical school or law school or get a undergraduate degree unless you take courses in DEI. I'm totally against that. Okay. I mean, I think it can be an elective, right? But I don't think it should be a requirement to graduate. And so because it upset so many people that it was a requirement, and it was being forced, okay, now we've gone the complete, like the pendulum is now all the way over there, that I'm afraid that people on campus that even want to discuss DEI, because I'm a free speaker, they should have the right to discuss it.
Yeah.
They should have the right to have a club. They should have a right to protest, have meetings, the entire thing. Just like I would say, other organizations that I don't agree with or ones that I do agree with have the same rights. Mm-hmm. So I want them to be able to be on campus, distribute their materials, do whatever they want. I just don't want it crammed down the throat. It should not be a requirement, to take DEI in order to be whatever. That's my opinion. Okay. And they have the right to have the opposite opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
I stand up for them to have the right to have the opposite opinion.
Right. And that mindset is the equilibrium, is that equal ground that we've got to address, because conservatives watch out, because what you wish for today and wiping all this stuff out, the pendulum always comes back the other way.
See, I'm a conservative the old-fashioned way. I believe everybody has these rights. Mm-hmm. I don't believe just conservatives or just liberals have certain rights. We all have these rights. Do. Yeah. And I respect people that have differences of opinion. And that's what colleges should be about. Mm-hmm. There shouldn't be these snowflake, whatever they call, little zones where, I'm offended because I heard something I disagree with. So I disagree with DEI, and I can be walking up the steps at the University of Cincinnati to the Tangeman Center, right? And there's a DEI guy on the steps, and he's preaching his message. I would not shut him down. I would not take his literature. I would maybe even stop and listen to him and try to understand his point of view, right? Even if I totally disagree. Yeah. And that's what college is all about.
It is actually.
I mean, for God's sakes. You know?
And I think the voices that are loudest may have never experienced that university situation. Again, whatever. I'm not trying to be mightier than thou because I went to university. You went, I went to Miami. You went to UC. Yeah. Our kids have gone to college. Your kids have gone to college. Yeah. We are very lucky that we were able to help and do that. But it's a great experience.
Well, you have an open mind, Brett, and so do I. Yeah. I mean, that's the difference. Yeah. Maybe a lot of people will not even tolerate discussing things with people they disagree.
They don't like to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They don't because I think a lot of it is they're uncomfortable that it may open up something in their mind that they never thought about. It's like, oh, maybe I do agree with this.
That's called learning.
I know, exactly. We're supposed to be uncomfortable until the day we die.
Yes.
We're supposed to be.
That's right.
We are.
That's right. Yeah. I always have in the back of my mind, watch what you say because you might just prove to everybody what an idiot you are. So
I think about that every day when I open my mouth. Exactly.
So here's something Brett and I disagree with, and that's Vivek Ramaswamy's claim, and I believe he's right. I don't believe everything he says. And I haven't decided whether I'm a Yost guy or a Vivek guy.
Way early to be deciding. Guys, don't yet. Yeah, right,
dude,
exactly.
I am getting 3 texts a day from Vivek's governor campaign. Wow. It's unbelievable. He's got Bernie Moreno, the senator's endorsement. He's got J.D. Vance's endorsement. He's got Donald Trump's. He's got all these endorsements. And I feel like Dave Yost is getting swamped right now, but we have a long way to go.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
One of Vivek's key things is he's targeted on this program that we just started in Ohio of school choice. And I know Brett has strong feelings about that, and so do I. And Vivek calls that a civil rights issue. And in a nutshell, the idea is that if you live in a say, or like we just talked about, Appalachia part of Ohio, maybe a poor area of Ohio, and the schools are largely supported by property taxes. So if you're in a really bad neighborhood, or if you're in a rural area, or in an area of blight or a low population area, the property taxes are probably not enough to have a real spiffy school with top teaching talent. And that's not a smear on the teachers who are there, but you have to think of it from a professional teacher point of view. They need a nice, neighborhood for their family. They need nice schools for their family. They have, a lifestyle that they want to pursue. And so it takes an unusual or a special person who wants to live in a poor neighborhood or wants to live in a rural neighborhood where the school is co-located and teach there. That's a very honorable and a wonderful thing for that teacher to do. It's a sacrifice. Same as with a doctor who's in a rural or a poor area of the state. So what that means is those students in those areas, I don't want to use the word condemned, but they're forced by just the facts of life, if there is no other alternative, to go to that public school that maybe doesn't graduate that many people, or maybe the reading tests show that they're not very literate or not up to speed compared to, say, Upper Arlington's graduates. And so those parents in the rural and poor areas, they want just as much for their children to succeed as in a richer neighborhood. So school choice is designed for those kids and their parents to have portability. They can go homeschool. They can go to a charter school. They can go to a parochial school. They can go to a Jewish school. They can go to whatever, a Protestant school. The idea is to give them their little check of, I think it's like $8,000 for elementary, something like $12,000 for high school per year, and go walk that over to a school of their choice. And I do think there is a civil rights issue involved in this, of treating everybody, letting everybody make these decisions. Now, will it hurt some school districts that do not perform? Absolutely will. They will shrink or they may fail altogether, or they may have to be consolidated. You know, we have like 800 school districts in Ohio. So maybe a few of them consolidate to form one strong school district. But that's enough out of me. I'd like to hear Brett's point of view.
No, I think you get some great points because it does kind of get into that civil. It does. I can see that. It makes a lot of sense. I guess on the other side of it is, so the portability only public schools have to accept the portability. Private schools can say, nope, you don't have to come here. And to your example, I can see where the good schools, the ones that are looked at as I want to go there, they're going to have problems because so many students are going to be wanting to go there.
Yeah.
And it's going to overwhelm
Yeah.
to your example, the Upper Arlington or the Hilliard, and we're talking Central Ohio school systems.
Or parochial, like Bishop Hartley.
Yeah.
They are overwhelmed.
Right. But they can say no to it, though.
But
they can
what
say
I mean
no.
is,
If they're overwhelmed, they can say, we can't take anymore.
Well,
where Upper Arlington can't.
That's right.
Hilliard has to take.
They're building as a physical size.
Right. Yeah.
And if Upper Arlington has more students than they can handle, they have to build buildings.
Right. Which is a strain on Upper Arlington citizens.
That's right.
They have no say in it. They have which is, in my mind, almost illegal.
Well, they can vote against the school levies.
Right.
I mean, that's
all the voice they have.
That's the voice that they have. Or they can run for school board themselves.
They could. Yeah, exactly. So, the smaller school districts that are doing excellent work comparatively, on the grading system, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get overwhelmed. And that's going to be a burden on those areas. And you'll see people eventually moving out of a Grandview Heights area because can't afford the taxes. So to build new buildings because of Ed Choice coming in.
So I hear you. Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
And so what the marketplace people would say in response to you is that, let's suppose you're the superintendent of one of these struggling schools, right? And let's suppose you have structural issues, like you're top heavy with administrators, or you don't have the right mix of teachers. And so maybe what you do is you try to compete. Like, yes, you can go down, but go down swinging. In other words, maybe bring in some people who've gone to Wright State?
Wright State, yeah.
Who've gone to Wright State and have worked with the professors there to get alternative certification. Like maybe a retired math professor at the university who doesn't have a grade school or high school teaching degree, but he does some courses at Wright State and gets alternative certification. Maybe retired people or ex-military people or ex-cops, ex-firemen, people who are good citizens of that area can be brought in as temporary or brought in as part-time teachers. And maybe you start cutting some of the administrative waste to make your school district more competitive.
And that's a whole different discussion. Valid. I completely agree that the administration is so tough. Every school district. Good grief.
Right.
I mean, there's even a running joke, and I know in one school district, I'm not going to name it, it's like, if you fail as a teacher, you get hired as administration.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that's pretty much wholesale on every school district. So come on.
Even in private business, that happens.
That's true. So it's kind of what it is. But there are, as I mentioned before, there's always pros and cons, and I seem to be wishy-washy in the things that I say, but it's like, but I see some negatives on the other side of it too. And I get it that if your school district is just not doing what it should, well, you're a participant in that community. Maybe you should be going to school board meetings.
That's right. And step up.
And trying to help get into the schools. I mean, that's what's we grew up with. Our parents were involved in schools, and we were involved in the schools. So,
like an example,
do what you can.
Like an example, say hall monitors, right? Rather than tying up a teacher who needs to be in the classroom teaching, rather than having that person out in the hallway, a retired cop volunteers. Doesn't have to wear a gun.
No.
Just be in the hallway and make sure that the truancy doesn't happen, that the kids, hey, no fights in the hall. Yeah. Get back in your class. The bell just rang. Come on, kids.
Yeah, that's
right?
Yeah,
that can be a volunteer person.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a paid person.
Right.
And that's where maybe I'm thinking the legislators are hoping that some of the districts that are cratering might resolve to compete. Because what this introduces, school choice, right?
Yeah.
That introduces competition.
It does. For sure. For sure.
And
Exactly.
so,
For sure.
you
Just
could throw
get better.
you could throw your hands up if you're a superintendent, or you can roll your sleeves up.
And just do something and protect your community school.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're right. It does introduce that to be the best that you can. Not that they weren't already, I think.
Or trying, but now like
your feet to the fire.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Yeah.
And Ohio probably needs to do some structural things that frankly aren't at the local level. Like, why do we have 800 school districts? When Florida has like 40, because each county is a school district. And that's where the administration could be way cut down. So instead of 800 busing directors or busing department heads, people who do the transportation coordination, instead of 800 of those in Ohio, we have 88 counties. We could go from 800 to 88.
Yeah.
If we did the Florida
and have a better logistics team to understand how to do it.
And then you got one person instead of like another 100. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that would be a battle royale. Because you would have people giving up local control to the county, and
Yeah. Now there's again pros and cons to every bit of it. Yeah. And it's something new that someone can't get their head wrapped around until it actually happens.
Well, and some people are going to lose jobs.
And they are.
Some of the administrators, the people who do food service, the people who do janitorial. I'm talking about the administrators, not the person pushing the broom or slinging the hash.
Exactly. It's
upstairs.
That has a cushy seat in an external building.
And we got 800 of them. Florida's got 40 of them.
Right. There's got to be some duplicative waste
We need a
there
Doge in Ohio.
for education. Yeah, exactly. Jeez. Yeah.
One thing that is in the news here, Brett, that how are we doing on time?
Probably went with one more story.
Okay.
We're probably hitting about an hour.
One thing that has occurred is, I don't want to use the name because the man is innocent until guilty, but his name is out there. A coach from Pickerington got a job. He left Pickerington under a cloud of accusations of sexual imposition or improper activity with a student. 4 counts he's been charged with now, but he has been at Johnstown's school district for this entire school year up till now, and they just placed him on leave because of these new charges. And they never would have hired him if they had known, right, that there were pending charges in an investigation. And this presents a real legal problem because in our society, you aren't presumed innocent until you're found guilty.
Right.
So you have police officers, you have firemen, you have school teachers, you have school coaches, you have any number of public servants who are involved with children or old people or just regular citizens who are in trouble, somehow legally with their former employer. They know that there's an investigation, and then they go apply to a different, they go
across town. Yeah.
And the previous people certainly can't pick up the phone, right? Probably there's all kinds of laws. They would get in trouble. They would be libeling or something, besmirching the name of somebody who's not been found guilty in court yet.
Yeah.
Right. And saying to the new school or the new police department, hey, don't hire this guy or this gal because they're a bad apple. So I'm just wondering what kind of red flag system or what could be done.
Yeah.
It seems to me like it's enough of a problem. If you know that you're in trouble and you're going to go through the legal mishmash, but you've got a license to use, nursing, doctor, whatever it is, hairstylist, whatever, right? And you leave and go to another community and set up shop all over again.
Yeah, you'd think there'd be special allowances, especially when you're dealing with the vulnerable age group,
You would
and that
think,
being young
yeah.
and old.
You would think,
And again, I'm not taking away from anybody that possibly was,
yeah.
an extreme of a 19-year-old high school senior that was raped. And
Yeah.
of course, then you're talking
Right.
18 to 19. So
Right.
again, there's that. But what do you do here? What do you do here?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, you would think that we got to be able to stop the predators.
So
without it being overburdening.
So most of these jobs,
until proven guilty,
most of these public sector jobs, and even private sector, like a doctor working at a private hospital, right, or a nurse, most of these jobs there is a license involved, and I just wonder if a complaint could not be filed with the licensing board
and suspend a license.
Suspend the license,
yes,
where you're not saying the person's guilty, but you're not letting them use that license to obtain other employment pending either some period of time beyond which, hey, you got to let them work. Like, I don't know, 90 days, 180 days, whatever it is, maybe based on the seriousness of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because
there's got to be something.
Right, because then you're taking away their opportunity to work in their
and they may be innocent.
field. And they may be. That's the thing.
That's
exactly.
The thing.
So then all of a sudden you weaponize the opportunity to poke somebody in the eye saying, yeah, that coach did this to me.
Yeah.
Never really happened. You're just pissed because you didn't get to start.
And you can say that. You could say that about your Catholic priest. You could say it about, your whoever. You could say that false charges. Yeah. Well, like this lady in Allentown or whatever, right? She said she had a noose on her desk. This was in the news this week. And she made a big deal. And there were these protests held, and everybody assumed that some skinhead or Ku Klux Klan guy put this noose on her desk. And I think she's on a school board or something in Allentown. It turned out the police have now charged her with, she made, it's like a Jussie Smollett thing. So you can make up any story and inflame a community, right?
With social media, and instant flame.
And make it up.
Wow.
And so I'm concerned that obviously this person here who's got these 4 charges from Pickerington may be guilty, may not be guilty.
But we're talking the scenario of
he got another coaching job with
point.
More kids in a different school system.
Yeah.
So we got to address that somehow.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way to protect all involved.
Yeah.
The rights of the person being charged. Maybe when they get placed on leave, they continue to get pay until it's resolved, and then claw it back if they are found innocent and be found guilty.
Right, which can limit the license suspension to a 90-day.
Yeah.
Which is not too burdensome on the school district to pay for 90 days.
Well, and also
get
the damn court, get it going.
Get it going.
Charge the person, go to trial. They're either innocent or they're guilty. Let's not drag this out for 5 years.
Yeah. And that's for the victim's sake too.
Yeah.
They want to resolve the family of the victim or whatever the case might be. Yeah. We want to go into
just real quick.
Yeah.
The Intel thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So yesterday or the day before, Intel came out with an announcement of more delay. They are now saying that plant will not be producing until 2030. It also came out that because that delay was, so they guaranteed this year they were going to be in production, 2025 to 2026. That the time frame, they were supposed to be up and running, employing as many as 10,000 people, right? So they're not meeting these goals. And the question was asked of DeWine and Jobs Ohio, well, are the taxpayers going to get their money back?
Yeah.
And DeWine said, well, the contract was written such that we can't do that.
Jeez.
So
again,
that is a failure of our state government.
Yes.
If they're writing contracts where the citizens are not protected, because Brett, you and I are paying, we're subsidizing that Intel plant.
We have
our tax money.
We ultimately, worst case scenario, have subsidized a brownfield.
It's ridiculous.
If that never gets built,
right,
that place is screwed. So it's going to be a cement slab forever.
Let me give you an example. The mayor of Mountain View, California, where Intel had a plant, it's a Superfund toxin site. that this mayor is dealing with. Intel's gone, and they left a brownfield.
Damn.
I mean, like we turned a greenfield into a manufacturing district, and now they're behind. We gave them all these enticements.
With no stipulations, basically, they're running it.
No clawback.
Yeah,
they get all the goodies,
right?
And the taxpayers of Ohio, including people going to the liquor store, their tax money is going to this Intel.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Wow,
so
unbelievable, unbelievable. Yeah,
and now they have added. So we thought we were going to get all clean manufacturing. Turns out that these silicon chip manufacturers do in fact deal in toxic waste. So,
I don't know how they couldn't be, honestly.
And they do put up stuff through the smokestacks.
I just any manufacturer is going to in some fashion, you would think.
So a big paint company, lovely, a big paint company. I'm sure the fire department out there in Licking County is happy about this. A paint company, I think a Japanese-owned paint company, is locating in the same area of New Albany, Johnstown, in that same area. They're going to manufacture paint.
Yeah.
Wow. Not exactly the clean data center stuff that they were talking about.
We're going to turn into Cleveland, Ohio.
Well, Brett, do you want to do best and worst? And
I think this is great. I mean, it goes into my wheelhouse of marketing and such. But Coca-Cola is going to be bringing back Share a Coke to reach Gen Z.
Share a Coke.
Remember the back in the 70s, the jingle "Share a Coke and a Smile." Remember that?
I don't remember that one.
And I love that idea that it's that bringing people together. Now, what I remember,
I'd like to
teach the world exactly. And I'm kind of surprised though. I get. Whoever brought the idea to the table has their own idea about what the jingle is. But I think the jingle they're using is like, okay, I see you're going Gen Z, but what's wrong with like share a Coke and a smile? I'm singing it now, and it was 1970s. What they're putting on it is not. But I think
bring back the fifth dimension.
Exactly. That's where you go. But I think it's a nice little piece of let's just get along.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. I like that. I think it's like share a Coke and a smile. It's like, yes, share something and talk. And I know that's kind of reaching, Brett. But it's like, no, it's not. We got to start somewhere. So share a Coke.
That's a nice, gentle.
Oh my gosh,
thing. And we need more of that.
I love it. What
do you have for your horrible thing?
Well, I'm going to go back to our tariff stuff. I'm concerned about that. I am concerned.
About all these tariffs?
Yeah.
Or just the car thing?
The car stuff. But you enlightened me a little bit on what really is going to happen. But
I think.
I know. I'm concerned about all the projections of what the increase on price of cars
It's all in details.
So we're seeing 5 to,
it does protect American production, and I think that is
very
the
selective
goal.
on what you choose to buy. Yeah.
I think what we're going to find out is so many of these foreign car companies make cars in America now. It's not going to have much effect.
I hope so, because we can't not have this.
Yeah. Nissan makes trucks, I think, in Tennessee. Volkswagen makes SUVs in, just stripped a gear. I was going to say Alabama.
Is it Georgia?
Chattanooga.
Okay.
Almost in Georgia.
I think it does. I think
BMW, South Carolina.
But you know what? I think this does have a positive side to it. Overall, if you're looking for a new or used car, you may investigate a little bit more, like where was this car made?
Yeah.
You look at the VIN number,
right?
Or I know VIN number, N is the number, but if it has a 1, it's a 1, right? At the very beginning.
Well, short term, I'll tell you what. There are people, before this goes into effect, there are people flocking to Ferrari and Porsche dealers.
Probably.
Because they're going to go up.
Well, my wife and I had this discussion this morning about, our son may have to get a new used car. Yeah. How does that affect the used car? They're saying it may. It may.
I think it's going to be.
I don't know.
I think it's going to be less impact than people think.
Because
I mean, just look at Honda. I don't know that Honda brings cars to America from outside America.
They may not.
I think they make everything here.
And they probably make more money by not shipping them over. I would think.
Yeah. Less shipping. I mean, it's made here and sold here.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
So my
yeah.
my best thing is 2 weeks ago, Steve was lamenting the stock market. It's come back basically to where it was. So there was that big correction, and over the last 2 weeks, it's worked its way.
I was
going
to log in and look at mine, and going, I don't know if I want to, because I'm not a checker. I'll look at it maybe once a month.
You can't
and just kind of go.
You
okay,
can't. No, you can't look every day.
Yeah, you can't.
And eggs are down. I went to Kroger, and they were like $9 a dozen at one point. They're now down to like $4.50. So eggs have come back for a dozen grade A large. It was $4.50 at the store last night. My worst thing, this is a horrible story, but here in Ohio, in Grove City specifically, at a Waffle House, a guy was eating his hash browns, and a human tooth appeared on his fork, and he didn't see it. He put it in his mouth, and he's chewing. Yes, and a part of somebody else's skull was in his mouth, and kind of gross.
Yeah.
So I'm not picking. I've actually eaten at that Waffle House. The people there are very nice. I've never had any despoiled food. They checked the staff, and everybody there had their teeth. So where in the hell this tooth came from?
Ooh.
In other words, a chef didn't smile and had one missing.
Right, exactly.
So that's my worst thing this week.
Yeah, you're going to have that.
That's all I got.
Oh, my God. Oh, man. Hey, again, jeez, I go on a high note.
His breakfast bit him back.
Wow, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Remember our sponsor, HarperCPAPlus.com, if you need to help for next year, basically, or later this year, especially as a business. Check them out. Glenn and the staff does a great job. Seriously.
A lot of people got extensions.
Yeah.
So he can still do your taxes this year. If April 15th is coming up, if you don't have your act together, file an extension with the IRS, or have Glenn file it for you.
Right. Exactly. And take care of business. That's for sure.
Right.
So, that'll do it for this week. We'll see you next week.